1 year from today, you'll either still be a code monkey grinding overtime with no pay, or you'll be sitting in a meeting where your decisions move the company that you own. This is Marco, and he chose a second path. And it all started with him quitting his Microsoft software engineering job and saying no to 4 times his salary. I hope you enjoyed this one.
So for folks that don't know, a year ago, almost a year ago, not exactly, but in like December, I kind of quit my job, not kind of, quit my job at Microsoft and then wanted to do and give the entrepreneurship thing a shot. That's when I started working with you, and then quite quickly, it didn't really go as planned, but it kind of in some ways went better and different. I ended up trying to figure out what exactly I'm going to do. Wanted to do something in fintech, something in finance, do some AI and help there. I ended up instead of building my own thing from scratch, joining a team that was just starting. Rest is kind of history. So for the past 6 months, we've been building this thing, and it's been getting better and better. That's the introduction.
Perfect. I remember for people who probably watched the first one, you talked a lot about how you even had the opportunity to make 4 times your salary, but you didn't take it. You still decided to quit the 9 to 5 and then focus on entrepreneurship and give that a try. Now that you're here, right? And for I guess people don't really know what you achieved. So do you want to give them a little bit of like, you don't have to go into too much detail, but you can just, give a little bit of a sneak peek.
Yeah. So there's like on two fronts, because at this point I am a big part of the company. So I want to, highlight what we achieved as a company.
Mm-hmm.
And then on like a personal front, so yeah, this time and in general, I don't want to go too much into detail on both ends
Mm-hmm.
for different reasons. On the personal front, I'm earning quite a bit more than I used to before. But
Mm-hmm.
what's more exciting is that as a co-owner of the company, I have like a smaller part of the equity, but still a part of the equity.
Mm-hmm.
The opportunity like financially is quite there. So if we land it, I think we have a good shot. I think like financially, it's not like comparable to something I could achieve outside of owning and
Mm-hmm.
um, just like from the salary. But just apart from just the financial opportunity, the ability to learn and advance myself in other areas is quite huge. So I'll get a bit more specific as a company. We're building in the financial sphere. We're building something that hopefully one day evolves into like a holistic OS or operating system for wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's like the ultimate vision in like 10 years where it goes. Currently, it's focused more on different niches, focused more on the investment side and managing of investments, making investments, going from VCs, hedge funds, and similar, and in different markets over the world. Basically, we spotted an opportunity for one AI integration, and second, bringing all the systems and processes into one place
Mm-hmm.
and bringing all your data, all your operations into one spot. And we built a tool and a platform for again VCs at this point, but like different financial institutions and players to help them invest using AI. So yeah, I think like personally had an opportunity to be on some quite big meetings, had to see how this whole thing works. I got to see from some very experienced folks how a startup is built and how something that can get hopefully really huge
Mm-hmm.
um, can get done. So I had a really like significant role in it, right? So it's something that's really like an invaluable experience for me. Even if God forbid I only made uh, a lot of money from the salary and don't get
Oh no.
uh, oh no, poor me, and don't and the equity doesn't end up going there. But I'm quite confident we will achieve. something quite big. And I like as more the time goes, as we saw some as we moved from ideas to actual customers and as we saw our first initial like batches of interest from the outside, the more I'm seeing the bigger the opportunity seems and the more hyped I am for it and the more I believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so at this point in time, yeah, that's like where I'm at. That's I rambled on a bit, but hopefully
No, no,
that's okay.
that's perfect. That's perfect because you're not in a position where I think most people would dream of, right? You have equity, you're working with the owners, everybody in, you have a big, you're feeling like you contribute something, it's meaningful, you're working on something big. Like it checks all the boxes. It's like perfect scenario, right? I want to use today's convo. Last time we talked more about results oriented, right? We talked about those things. Today I want to talk more about the mindset. Today I want to talk about because you've already experienced the before and after. You went on the trip, right? You went to Japan recently. You've talked with people. You've been in rooms where the real players are at, so to say, right? You've seen all of that. I guess what's been the biggest mindset shift for you compared to the Marco, let's say, like last year?
I'd say I am much more willing to bet and
Mm-hmm.
take higher risk. And if I can like give one piece of advice, especially for I think folks who can afford it in terms of like they're either young or they have enough of a nest egg or something. I think that the biggest mistake I see in people is being too conservative and not taking enough risk
Mm-hmm.
and not trying out stuff because I think people would be surprised if you like gave it your all, if you actually shot um, and actually tried to achieve something meaningful. I think it's much more doable than most people think, and I think it's a much better experience than most people think. I think you'll always end up on the positive end of it. Not always, but I feel like
No,
that's the
certainly.
biggest mindset shift. I'm much more willing to take a risk if I see that the potential is there.
How about from the perspective of a software engineer specifically? What changed mainly with whenever you think of I'm a software engineer, or whenever people ask you, oh, what did you study? And you say software engineering, right? Computer science. What's changed in that aspect in terms
So
of what do you think is a software engineer now, or like a good one?
yeah, I have changed my perspective a lot on that topic in
Mm-hmm.
particular. Before, I used to kind of pride myself and measure not only myself but different software engineers,
Mm-hmm.
mostly on just like the technical skill
Mm-hmm.
and how good you are at writing certain code and writing it in a way that's like whatever clean and reusable and this and that. I think that there's like a huge leverage that you can gain by moving outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
One side is just like understanding product and being more product driven in your development. The other side is being more like understanding a bit of the sales, understanding customers more, understanding problems more.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped thinking of myself as like a software engineer and more thinking of myself as just like a problem solver, where
Mm-hmm.
software is just a tool that I'm fortunate enough to be good at. But especially as as the AI advances, I think more of those hard skills are getting more and more accessible. And I think if you can just be good at solving problems, you're golden. That's how I see myself as. I don't care if that problem involves code or not. I just solve it.
You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly where I was going to go with this. It's you're not your job isn't to write code. Your job is to solve problems. It's to create things. It just so happens that you use code as a medium to do that. Most people get it backwards. That's what they don't quite understand. What about from the lens of the stereotypical software engineer, right? You sit behind the computer, you don't talk with people, you just do your code and then that's it. How about from that
Yeah, no.
lens? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, I think the so one of the cool things that we do quite a bit is we are an international team and we work from like three offices in a way. We have an American team, an Asian team, and a European team. So
Mm-hmm.
like all three time zones and shit. Regardless of that, what I learned is for me, I like to go to the office. I like to be available to people all the time. And even if you're working international as we are, just talking to people constantly, not just like also like people you're working with, but just getting out there and talking to actual customers, talking to actual users. I think the main reason why our thing is doing really well at this point, it's still early, so we'll see
Mm-hmm.
where it'll end up. But I think like the main advantage that I had is that I got to be on the calls and I got to see the process and I got to actually live it with the people who are having the problem that I'm solving.
Mm-hmm.
So not so having that, I think they're like the term that people like using is forward deployed engineer, so an
Mm-hmm.
FDE. I think I don't even think of it as that. I think that's like an elementary thing you should
Mm-hmm.
think when you think about an engineer. I think every engineer should be forward deploy in a way, and should see the problem itself and should be, again, I mentioned this earlier, but their own product manager, their own like, yeah, I think that's like the biggest learning. So yeah, being stuck with just you and your code is not gonna get you far.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because most people have this, I don't know where it even comes from. I guess social media plays a part into it, but most people have this idea that they can just sit behind a computer, vibe code an app, and then make millions from it without ever having to talk to a user, without ever having to get involved in marketing, or really having conversations with actual human beings. And maybe one or two apps this way have seen some success, if you can, call it that, and if that's actually how it was behind the scenes. But from your perspective that you've already seen, right? You've worked on an app yourself, you've talked with the individuals. Do you believe you could have done the same level of work that you've done if you hadn't talked to anybody? Now, I don't mean from a technical sense, but rather the finished product. I know it's not finished yet, you guys are still working on it, but in terms of the direction it would have gone, imagine you hadn't talked to any of your users, you hadn't tried to communicate, and all you really did was just your job, which was, hey, build this specific thing without you doing the manual things yourself.
Yeah, no, not even close. So I'll even expand on your point. I now tend to be involved in like the local community quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So visiting like meetups and seeing like what other people are building, how they're doing it, learning from them, and just being not, like talking to the users, but as well like talking to everyone around you, communicating. I can't explain to you how many times we like had to pivot because you
Mm-hmm.
build something, you figure out it doesn't work, you pivot. If you didn't communicate, we probably would have built it out to the end, and what then you have a product that's really good, but no one wants it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's like a commonplace trap for an engineer, because you usually like focus on the problem and you're focused on how something is done, and you're not asking why you're
Mm-hmm.
even doing it or what you're doing. And I think that kind of like product led or whatever you want to call it, engineering, where like your main concern is what problem are you solving, who are you solving it for, why are you solving it. That's like I think much more important than how you solve it,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's like that's a lesson that I learned, and I think it applied really well. And I think it's something that a lot of engineers could easily get wrong because, again,
100%. Yeah, I talk about it a lot, right? Like always ask the why you do what you're doing. It's not necessarily how you do it, but why do you do it? Like why this specific problem? Part of it comes from tying it back to the business, right? Because when you ask enough whys, you drill down into okay, because it impacts this portion of the business, because it makes us make this much money or makes us lose this much money, or whatever the reasoning. But the why is extremely important because that's the only way you're going to get to the business result that whatever you're doing actually makes, right? Marco, with that, you mentioned you had a very big mindset shift, and now you don't view yourself as just a software engineer. You view yourself as more so a problem solver who happens to use software to solve the problems that you're working on, right? The solution you're providing is a software one at that. Tell me a little bit about the importance of communication, network, social skills, charisma, most of the soft side, the soft skill side of software engineering that you've seen that's gotten you, let's just say, not only favorability with the C-suite execs or any of that, but how important was it to pair with your hard skills to really show the value that you provide, right? In other words, the soft skills that allowed you to market yourself or allowed you to show your value to people, to show that you're valuable enough that you deserve equity. Talk a little about that.
Yeah. So I think, again, I don't want to understate the hard work that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to provide value. You need to deliver. That's
Mm-hmm.
like a really big important part of it. But if you deliver and kind of no one realizes it and no one knows about it, you're not gonna go too far. Now there's like two moments where I needed to do this that are quite different. One moment was just starting out, because starting out, I still had to partner with someone who was looking for probably someone more senior than me, probably someone with more experience, because I'm quite young.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question would arise, like, why pick me? Why am I a good fit? Why would you entrust me in solving this problem as apart from anyone else? And being able to communicate in that moment, on that, like, on one hand, like, I do have some uh, technical pedigree behind me, but more importantly than that, I am relentless. I'm willing to learn. I'm obsessed with the problems that I solve, and I'm really, really driven. And when you have that mindset and you're actually, in that mindset, when you're actually the person that you say that you are in that way, I think it comes off quite clearly. And I think when you are able to communicate it in a well articulated way, I think people can sense it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't have the soft skills without the hard ones. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say the hard ones, again, don't think about just coding. Think about the
Mm-hmm.
whole problem space. You can't have just the soft skills without them. But on the other hand, if you don't know, if you don't understand what you have and don't understand how to communicate it, then it doesn't get far. That was the first time I had to. That's like one part of it. And I think that one part is where it shined. And then the second time I had to do it is once I was already in the company, and we were building a proof of concept. We were trying to test stuff out, because at the beginning, in like 6 months ago, in like February or March of this year, when we are just like starting out, we're just building the proof of concept. No one knew if what we're trying to do can be done, or and what is there, what if there is an opportunity for something like this. So in that moment, when I worked really hard, locked in again the hard stuff that I really enjoyed. It didn't feel too
Mm-hmm.
hard for me, but just saying. Um, when you actually do the work, then comes the moment when you need to figure out, okay, what do I want here for myself? And at that moment, the soft skills need to shine again. I think if you I think you ask people around me what they appreciate about me. One part is going to be, okay, he knows how to execute on things he said,
Mm-hmm.
and the other part will definitely be that I know how to communicate well.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't overstate the the soft skill side of it, but you need to be able to cover it.
Yeah.
So I think like that's like where my mindset is. Like you need to be able to talk the talk, but also walk the walk.
Walk.
And my biggest advice there would just be say the things after you've done them, and don't like under promise and over deliver. Don't talk much until you have something to stand in front of, but then once you have, then don't be afraid to demand whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. Very well said. I think most people, at least that I've seen, mid to senior level developers, they have the technical baseline to really move a lot further, but they don't have the soft skills to back it up. Um, a lot of it comes from mindset, a lot of it just comes from pure communication. But overall, I think people grossly underestimate soft skills. And I wish more software engineers understood that that's really the only bottleneck they have. Most people try to upskill, learn this and that, but they don't understand that, hey, if you just spent the same amount of time upskilling in your soft skills, you would probably have 5 to 10x their net ROI. I want to take the topic a little bit of a tangent. I remember when you finally, got news that perfect, you're getting the equity, all this stuff. You felt on top of the world, and then you said something to me. You said you sent out a message. I think it was when right before I saw you in Monaco. I think it was like 1 or 2 days beforehand, right when you were still in Como. You said this is amazing. Like I'm gonna do this again, 100% take a trip like this again. And for the first time, you sort of felt, I guess, a hint of freedom, of like what that really looks like going out with good company, going wherever you want to go, enjoying the time, right? And then now with you going to Japan, you seeing this kind of life, talk to me a little bit about, is it worth it, right? Is it, because a lot of people ask, okay, if I put in all that effort, all that time, all that energy, right? It's different if I make a video saying it's worth it because people will be like, well, yeah, you're saying it because you're already there, but I'm in this position, I have to do this much work, get there, and I don't know if it's gonna work, it, blah, 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 blah. Tell me from your perspective, in terms of ROI, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I I will say that for me personally, this is the decision to move out and pursue an opportunity like this is one of like the best decisions I ever made in my life. And I don't really say that terribly lightly. And I really wish I could explain to people because you can look at I understand that not everyone would want to be in my position from like, if you look at it like on paper and objectively. Simply put, I work a lot. I tend to like get quite a lot done and a lot of my days work. But also, what I don't think people get is that I enjoy it far more than I ever did. And that for me, I can't imagine doing for like 8 hours a day something that just doesn't move me forward in a way this does. It would feel like such a waste of time and it would feel so bad. It would feel so tiring and so draining. And I can't even compare it, right? Like this, we can talk about, the Monaco trip, the Japan trip, the everything. Feels good. But what I want to emphasize especially is the day to day
Mm-hmm.
and getting there is not this soulless grind that I think everyone tries to describe it as,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's like let's suffer through it so that I can get to be able to do these cool things. I like to explain that no, my day to day is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm enjoying myself. Like I get to have those experiences when I want to have them. Monaco was fun. Japan was super fun. And it truly like when I like at this point I don't even stop to look around because it started feeling normal. I remember when I told you the first time when I went to Monaco and we had that discussion there, and how like felt out of place, felt really good, but it felt like oh wow, I
Mm-hmm.
wish I wish I could have this. And now it feels in place. It feels like this is pretty sick, and I'm enjoying it. And like being able to work on something you're passionate about and being able to have that work on you and you feel that is just so filling as opposed to draining. And yeah, it allows you, it gives you fuel to do whatever you want in life. So
Mm-hmm.
for me the ROI is yeah, it's incomprehensible. I don't think I could have been anywhere close to this position now, and I don't even know where I'm gonna. This is like 6 months in.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, a year from
yeah,
now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, you'll be at a completely different standing point. So I guess,
yeah, I
Marco,
think
yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
I just want to say I think yeah, I'm never going back. Like this
Oh,
is not gonna be my logic was I'm gonna give this a shot. If it doesn't work out in a year or two, I can always get back. Now, like no, I'm like if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna do it again. It's like
mm-hmm.
no reason to do like no reason to get back to corporate life and stuff like that. I don't see a point. Yeah.
There's a famous phrase, right, that always goes around. I don't know who they attribute it to, but it's around lines of once you taste true freedom, you become unemployable. In a sense of you can't you can't work for somebody else anymore. In that sense,
Yeah.
95 cents, because you understand what true freedom is. And the you said it perfectly. You said, I don't know how to tell people. I can't, like, you have this thought, you have this emotion in you. You have this truth that you realize about the world that you want to pass on to the next person, that you want to tell them, hey, look what I've discovered. Like, I can tell you this right now, but I don't have the right words. Maybe it's because, like a language barrier. No, that's not really it. It's just, it's very hard to explain what it is you're feeling. And I myself have tried doing this over the course of hundreds of videos now, right? To really package it in a consumable manner. Years of things and then this emotional high that you get from the fulfillment you have from working on something you like, from being paid a lot for it, from making a shit ton more money, for having the freedom to do anything you want. If somebody looks at it from the side, it's like, oh, this guy's living in a movie. And then on top of that, you enjoying the day to day. So when people look at it, they're like, okay, for this life, he has to be sacrificing something. And then when you look at your own life, you're like, objectively, okay, what am I sacrificing? Like, not doing these things, but I don't even want to do those things anyways. So I'm not really sacrificing it. Sacrifice entails that I would want to do it, that I'm not doing it. But if you take a look at today, like, I'm doing everything that I want to do and more, right? And I just like cherry on top of everything else. So you said it perfectly. There's really no good way, at least that I've seen for now. I'm trying to, get to it, to package that feeling, that emotional high, and really explain to people just how not only doable it is, but for the ROI, how insanely asymmetric it is. For the amount of time and effort you have to put in versus the result you can get out of it, it is so asymmetric. And the analogy I always bring up, people go 9 to 5, 40 hours every single week. They do it for years, right? 40 hours a week, that's 160 hours a month. Some people work overtime, even more than that. Average person probably spends 200 hours a month on it. Course of a full year, right? That's 2,400 hours. Imagine 2,400 hours spent on something like this, right? What you did in 6 months, right? What you got to in 6 months, I mean, what was your working experience beforehand? You worked years prior to that,
Yeah.
and yet you didn't even get to. You were just like 10% of what you've accomplished here in terms of everything else. You like what you do. You've achieved all this, and in a sense, it makes you realize, what if I did this sooner? What if I started this entire journey 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Where would I have been now, right? You just begin to understand, okay, like the asymmetry of it. The one thing I really want everybody to take away, especially from watching this second one, right, with you, is in the last one I said it. I'm like, Marco, I'm really excited to see where we'll be 3 months from now. Back then, you didn't know. We were considering, right? We were making a plan for the equity, but back then
Yeah.
we didn't know for a fact. And then now we got it, and then all of a sudden, our future, what we're thinking of now completely changed, right? Because now we're playing the long game. Now we're thinking 5 years ahead down the line, 10 years ahead down the line. From your perspective, right? You having gone through this entire thing, what would you say outside of we talked about mindset, we talked about all these things. The sole biggest, most important thing, if you had a message to give to somebody, right? Let's say you only have 10 seconds to say it, and then the call is going to drop, right? It's a 10-second message that you can leave. What do you leave? Is it a piece of advice? Is it just do it? What is it? What in those 10 seconds, what message do you get out in as short of a time as possible?
What do you got to lose? That's like one sentence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I come back to the risk-taking mentality. I think too many people are too afraid of what. If you sit down, you ask yourself, what do you have to lose? I don't think there's much, right?
100%.
Like for I'm being honest. If you're right now, if someone's working on like a job somewhere, are you gonna lose it if you try something else? You're not gonna lose it. You're gonna get back there, right? So give it a shot. I think I don't have like a better message than that. So that's like, being on the spot, it's a bit tough because it's super tough to explain. You mentioned earlier the feeling. I get frustrated. I talk to people and I see opportunities like this and I try to bring it to them and I see the doubt, I see the hesitation, and I see the them trying to make up an excuse not to try it because maybe they're not ready, they couldn't do it, this or that. My logic is, man, risk it. It might not work out, but what if it does, right? What if it does work out? Because I can tell you that it will, and maybe not at first, maybe not at second, but if you're relentless, it's gonna work out. It has to. Because if you don't give up, it's not gonna give up on you. It's not probably gonna come sooner than you think.
Mm-hmm.
But like, man, if what if it works out, right? So in my head, like, look at yourself in the mirror, think about what do I actually have to lose. You're probably gonna realize that you're in a position where you're not gonna lose much if you try. So that's my logic.
Very well said. I think most people hearing that, they might be like, oh, you're just an example of survivalship bias, or oh, you did this, you did that. But really, I mean, we're in a day and age now where in some Western countries, even if you want to go without food, you probably won't be able to. Because at least in the United States, there's no way you can starve unless like you willingly decide to put yourself in that situation. It's going to be very hard. You have food banks, you have all these things, right? The worst that can ever happen to you in the United States, God forbid, nothing too crazy, but everything else is fine. Okay, you start something, your job finds out, they tell you to end it, or they fire you. Okay, you lost your job. You can always find another job, right?
Yeah.
And I know it says, oh, but the job market doesn't matter. You can always find another job. It's not a difficult thing to find another job. You spend 8 hours a day on finding another job, you'll find another job very easily, right? That's not the main issue here. So what is the worst thing? Oh, people going bankrupt. People, not really. In this day and age, you don't have to put any money into it to start something. I mean, there's a lot of business models you can get into where you didn't fork up anything, right, for this. It was only your time and energy that you put in. Oh, but my time and energy, I'm not going to get back. Okay, what else are you going to put it into? Most of the individuals watching this, it's not like they're hyper successful in the term of, they're Elon Musk and their 1 second of their time is worth $40,000. No, most people watching this, you know, have hobbies, have other things they do. They play video games, they watch Netflix, all these things. Take the time out of those, right? People say the risk is too great, right? The risk is too great to get into it. There's a lot you can lose. What is the time I'm wasting right now? Okay, think of it backwards. Which risk is greater? It's you stagnating and living like that, and then on your deathbed regretting that you didn't do anything, or is it that you do something, and at least you go on an adventure, right? Because even if it doesn't work out, which by the way will only happen if you give up, and I mean that really, like so I'll put it this way, every single person can be successful, not every single person will. When I say success, I don't mean every single person can be a billionaire. No, not every single person can be a billionaire. I can say that. But every single person can be successful, meaning every single person can do a lot more than they're currently doing wherever they are at their life, but most of them won't do it. And it's not because there's not enough space in the world, and it's not because there's not enough money in the world. None of that. It's simply just human psychology. People, it's all beliefs, right? But if you believe it and you genuinely understand that there is such a reality out there, you will know it. I want to finish this off. I want to close this off with talking about the reality out there. You've seen Monaco. You went to these places. You saw Japan. You've seen how the high rollers play. You know how they roll. You've seen what's regular in their life. You've seen what's so kind of out of this world when you compare, let's say, a regular person's life to their kind of life. So you've been around such individuals. Talk to me a little about potential in terms of what people don't really understand about how not necessarily good life can be, but how high the levels really are. When people say, oh my God, like 200,000, 300,000 is a lot of money, right? Or when they say 30K a month, wow, like that's crazy amount. How high do the levels really go? Because you've seen it already, you've gotten a little bit of taste of it. So people really understand that whatever they think is high is nowhere near even the starting line.
This is this is why it's very important to surround yourself and be in an environment where you can have these sorts of experiences. Because when someone says that's a lot in terms of money or whatever, it's always relative. It's always like what they think is a lot and what comes across as a lot for them. But then, like on yourself, you experience this. I've experienced this to a lot lower extent. Because I think a huge advantage that people that I think I have that you might think is a disadvantage is that I don't come from a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
That some of these things that I have now have truly been something that, my parents, when they were my age, could have only considered luxury
Mm-hmm.
and high end. And then I could have considered some of the things that I have now as something very luxurious, like a couple of years ago, or even a year ago, or even half a year ago, like having to experience some of these things. Yeah, like how much something costs or how tough something is to get. I would think like, oh damn, there's no shot like someone can just do this and it's always like a waste of whatever. But then like you see people and you see them spend on levels that are just like what I would are just as inconsequential to them to spend on a car or a yacht or whatever, just to like prove a point. If you think about it, I remember having an explicit conversation because I think some NBA team was selling and it was selling for an absurd amount. And I remember looking at the deal on paper because it went through the rounds and I got to see how the term sheets looked like and how much it was. And I was like, there's no shot this makes any sense to purchase. And in the same way, when I saw like a Formula team deal, like there's no shot this like economics don't make sense, anything makes sense. And then someone like just had said to me like, this is not a price sensitive deal. You don't buy this because you're looking at those things. You buy this because you just want to flex. And I was like, but you're buying an NBA team. But they told me like, you're not looking at it the right way. Those teams are only selling like once every 40 years. If you don't buy it now, you're never gonna like. You don't buy that because the economics looks good. You buy that because you want to flex. And that's like, yeah, you have people who buy sports teams or a formula team just to like prove a point or just to like have it. So that's the most insane level I've seen. But anything even remotely close to that is probably for most people seems like some unreachable and some insane level.
Mm-hmm.
But the longer I'm here, the more like certain numbers seem lower and certain numbers seem more and more and more achievable. And I think my biggest advice for anyone who wants to like attain that type of mindset is you gotta have it close to you. Like you can't I don't think they can feel it through the screen. I can't tell them that. But if they have a person and they see it and there's like a person in their life and they know them, they've seen them, they've like been in the environment. That's like when it becomes real. Because you like for me and for you, for someone watching, that's a third person here. Like we don't seem like real people. You can always like look at us, but like in my head, like try to make a real connection with a person like that, and you're gonna feel how real it is, and you're gonna also figure out that that person you can be that person. Like there's nothing terribly special to them. Like we talked earlier, like not everyone can be a billionaire, this and that. I can like that's like a multiple, and a
Mm-hmm.
multiple is maybe 1,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't, maybe if they're lucky, they'll have like 10 billion versus one versus 100 million. That's like where the luck plays in. But like that multiple only I think like applies much higher than people think. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like for most people a lot higher level is available than I think it is, even if we assume like bottom 10% luck or whatever. Because again, like I think my advantage that most people are not gonna take as an advantage is that I didn't come from much. And me not coming from much gives me um such a better story, number one, because
Mm-hmm.
I get to tell like a greater story because it's more impressive that I did it than if someone
Mm-hmm.
in America does it. But then on the second level, it gives me the confidence to know that I achieved it even though I had those things stacked against me. And I know that it can't be luck on that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like if you're healthy, if you're living under conditions where truly like your next meal is not in question, stuff like that, like you don't understand how lucky you are, and you don't understand like that you're pretty much there. Most of the people don't have that, by the way. Like we can talk about it, but like if you're living in a country where truly like you have a roof over your head, you're not homeless, you have health, both mental, physical, there's no deficiency that you have, you're not worried where the next meal comes in, everything else is achievable. That's
Mm-hmm.
like my point of view.
Very good you said that because I had I wanted to bring this up, but especially when you call that the U.S., I have a lot of people sometimes that might comment, right? Oh, it's because you're from the U.S. U.S. is very easy. It's like they think U.S. is this I don't know, like dreamland. The second you touch everybody, everything turns into gold. It's not. Is it easier than Europe? 100%. For entrepreneurship, it 100% is. You can't even set up a proper LLC in most European countries. The process is so complicated, right? And there's so many rules. So US is definitely easier from the perspective of it gives you the ability to do it, but it's still going to be up to you, right? It gives you the opportunity, but it's not going to be up to you to do it. But what really was impressive with your specific accomplishment was that Eastern European countries, a lot of people from there have already given up from the perspective of I need to move to the US. Like there's no way I'm achieving success in my own country. I have to go to the US, right? And they always use that as an excuse. The Indians use it because of India, right? The Pakistanis use it because of Pakistanis. The Ukrainians use it because of Ukraine. Every single person uses it based on their country that I have seen. The only people who obviously don't are those who were in the US. But even sometimes you'll see US people complaining that, oh, everything's getting sent to, let's say, it's being offshored, right? So people are always complaining. They're always complaining. There's no accountability on, oh, it's because of me, right? But with your thing, I think it's a perfect example of you coming from nothing to something, right? You turning down an offer that I don't think most people would have, especially from the country you were in, the money you were making, you would literally be a king. Like already making the Microsoft money in Eastern Europe was already very well off, but making 4 times that, you would be living like an actual king there. You would be able to live almost anywhere you want, afford anything you want, right? Drive a very nice car around, have a great social life, everything would be good. And yet you'd still turn that down to work on what you wanted to work on, to pursue what you wanted to pursue, something of your own, right? And then you got there. And now you've achieved even more success, so to say. But my entire point is it's possible. It's possible. It doesn't matter where you're from. Sure, some places are easier than others, 100%. I can't skirt around that. That's a fact. You being in San Francisco or LA to do business is going to be easier than you, let's say, in some random city in a country in Africa, for sure, right? I mean, that's undebatable. However, that's not to say that you don't have a chance to succeed in some random city in a country in Africa. You still do. It's all going to matter on how many times you roll the die. And I think you're a perfect example of that. You gave yourself the risk appetite you had to keep rolling the die while knowing the worst thing that happens, if 2 years doesn't work out, I go back to a 9 to 5, right? That was your thing because you were already in a position where, you were grateful enough to have that food on your plate, the roof over your head. You're like, okay, I'm basically winning. In all other aspects, everything else is just up to me. So that was a very good point, Marco. Is there anything you want to leave the people off with? Any last minute thoughts? Just anything if you want to like summarize everything.
Yeah, my whole shtick, my whole thing is take the risk. That's like everything I have to leave you with.
Mm-hmm.
It's go for it, shoot for it, manage the risk. So what I did is like I prepared cash so I can sustain myself for like 2 years. Do that, be responsible, especially if you have like people dependent on you. I understand it's not as easy, but don't give yourself an excuse. My logic is people in much worse position than you are in have achieved much more than you have. Why couldn't you do it? That's my logic. if you are able to watch this video, chances the fact that you have internet access, the fact that you are probably living in a warm place and having the next meal, that's a privilege, and I think you should use that privilege. I think you kind of I try to think of it as like I owe it because not everyone has that opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are a lot of people that don't have like stable whatever food source or don't have roofs over their head, don't have internet, don't have stuff like this. It's not like a given. I think people don't understand how lucky they are. Again, I'm coming from a 200 people village in Serbia where to this day doesn't have cell service. That's where I come from, right? To this day doesn't have cell service. I haven't been to a restaurant. I've been to a restaurant probably 3 times in my life until I was like 20 something making my own money. Haven't went to vacation 3 times while before I started making my own money. Like things like that. I come from that background and I still think that's rich, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think most people are underestimating how privileged they are and how big of a shot they actually have. And that might piss some people off, but like my logic is I think too much too much too many people are not grateful enough and are complaining too much. And I think have a much bigger opportunity to do something than they take. So take the risk, take the leap, and if it doesn't work out, try again. It needs to work out eventually. So that's that.
Perfect. Thank you, Marco. I think that is a perfect segue to this round. We'll see where we go from about 6 months later, see where you're at, and then we'll do another one.